I'm Tom Warner, and welcome to the Better People Podcast. The Better People Podcast, build a better self. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to focus on defining who you are by building your core. But before we get into that, let's have a heart-to-heart talk. First, just because I'm talking to you does not mean I have life figured out. Honestly, I'm still learning how to be a better person myself. Second, what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay. Third, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how far you've progressed, only that you've moved forward. So here's what I do. I wake up early, typically between 5 and 5:15 a.m. I do this because it's during a time where I can be with myself and thoughts. I'm also the father of 3 boys, which means we're an active bunch, and honestly, I need some time to myself. It lets me reflect and plan my day. This time of reflection is important to me, and a key time for most of us. It's usually when we first wake up. That's where we're most often the most alert and capable of thinking with a clear head. So for me, I love reading. And I'll also admit it takes me a while to read through an entire book. And again, that's okay. I read daily for as long as I can before moving on to my next task. In this show, I'm going to include some recommended reading. And actually, here's my first book. It's called The 5 a.m. Club. Own Your Morning, Elevate Your Life. It's by Sharma. You can find it on Amazon. I've got it on my Kindle. The 5 a.m. Club focuses on waking up early to start your own morning. Or I should say, start and own your morning. It's written in a story form style which centers around the plight of an entrepreneur, an artist, a billionaire, and a man they refer to as the spellbinder. I recommend it because many of the principles fall in line with what I'm already going to be focusing on today in the Better People podcast. Now, while I've only recently encountered the book, I've been following a similar practice of waking early for years. So honestly, for me, it was more out of necessity of needing more me time. So here's what I do. I wake up early, like I said, between 5 to 5:15 a.m. And yeah, sometimes I do snooze right past it. It happens. But I try to keep the same actions after waking up. So I make my coffee. I grab my lined notebook. I sit down and I write out the date. Under the date, and I write this verbatim, I am grateful. And then I list out every item of happiness that comes to mind. Below my grateful section, I create 2 columns labeled, I am worried about, and then next to that I have one's called resolution. In the I am worried about column, I write items I'm worried about. Usually they're one word, very short sentences. It's basically what's bothering me. It could be external issues, and it could be internal. It could be something like maybe I spend too much time on TikTok, or maybe I need to work on time management. If it's one of those, anything related that causes me grief during the day, it goes on the list. Now, in the resolution column, I write next to the worry item just a simple resolution. Now, I know, easier said than done. This doesn't mean the problem's solved. It just means that I identify it as something I can control or not. An example might be for like time management. Next to it, I might write slow down. If it's excessive cell phone use, I may write put the phone down. Now, these help me identify if it's something I have direct control over or not. Items such as buy a house, I might write research. And then for me, being a man of faith, I may say, and leave it to God. Like I said, this is while on a religious podcast, sometimes I may refer to a higher power. I'm pro-God. But basically on problems I can't immediately solve, I default to leave it to God. Meaning these aren't problems I can really worry about and make a change to the outcome. And finally, I write below the I am worried and resolution section, I write down priorities today. And then next to that, I write long-term. In the priorities today, I write immediate or important tasks that need to happen under priorities today. It's basically, here's what has to happen. It's not detailed, but it may be something like perform audit, which is work-related. Get Robert his proposals. Plan on son's birthday party. Fortunately, I have several months for that. And honestly, for birthday parties, my wife probably handles that more than I do. In the long-term column, I write more general tasks that may not be of immediate importance, but they're items I'd like to accomplish. And they're usually bigger picture items. A recent example may be more podcasts, work on organization, write my book. And finally, I reflect, and since, again, like I said, I'm pro-God, I pray about my entries. So I go through the list, I say my prayer, and I say, hey, Lord, help me with these. Here's my concerns. And then after planning the day, you work the plan. Now, a question may be, what do I do the next morning? What if the items are still the same? Well, I write them down again. That's the point. That which gets measured gets results. So, what gets measured and recorded, in my case, sees results. And yeah, I've missed days. It happens. But I try to pick up and keep going. Now, after time, I start to see patterns which help me to address the issues. Some items I was worried about have either dropped off, or they're resolved, or I've realized they're not worth worrying about. Now, it's a good practice to journal daily because it helps manage anxiety and it helps develop your core character traits. And we're going to get into that probably in a few more episodes. Now, some other questions may be, does it have to be paper? Or can it be like an Evernote app? I mean, technically you could use Evernote or something electronic. Now, personally, I connect my thoughts better when I write them in hand. Plus, it lets me go back and refer to previous entries. That's my personal preference, but it's one I do recommend. They say that if you write something down, you're more likely to remember it. So that's why I do it. So I buy the Amazon Basics Classic Lined Notebooks. They're 240 pages, and they're hard-covered, and they're ruled. I'll put a link in the show notes. But I like them because they're handy, they're easy to transport, they're good little notebooks. I can usually get a 2-pack for like $10 or so. Now, if there's a takeaway from today's show, it's this. Wake up early and start journaling. If you read the 5 a.m. Club, it's going to recommend you start your morning off with exercise. And I agree. And it's something I'm also working on to focus on. But in life, you take baby steps. I'm getting there. But for now, I wake up early and I read my journal or write my journal. And that's it. That's my plan for now. And like I said, this is going to be a multi-part series, and these are items that have helped me. We'll have part 2 of building your core next week. Remember to join us each Monday morning for a brand new episode hosted by yours truly, along with the occasional special guest. You can say hi by emailing hello@betterpeoplepodcast.com. That's hello@betterpeoplepodcast.com. Let us know in which areas you'd like to improve. Thanks for listening.